All right, get ready to dive into a topic that's all about, well, double the Libras. We're talking Libra love today.
Oh, yeah.
And whether two scales trying to find balance can actually work.
Right.
So even if you're someone who doesn't live by their horoscope, stick with us.
Yeah, this should be good.
Because we're going deep into some fascinating relationship stuff here, all based on like this super in-depth astrological compatibility analysis I found.
Oh, wow.
But like always, we're
Mhm.
not going to tell you what to think. Just want to unpack all this juicy info.
I like it.
Yeah.
Unpack it.
Let's unpack it.
So one thing that really jumped out, the analysis talks about how Libras value tasteful behavior, especially, get this, in the intimacy department.
Okay, tasteful.
Yeah, and I was like, what does that even mean in real life? But, help me out here.
So it's definitely a little vague.
It is.
But when you look closer, it seems like it's about moderation for Libras in this type of pairing.
Well, okay.
They'd rather avoid extremes, build slowly.
So it's not just like wild passion from the get-go.
Yeah.
Maybe not right away.
Interesting.
It's more about creating that harmonious, balanced experience.
Which honestly at first sounds kind of ideal, right? Like who doesn't want that?
Right. Steady as she goes.
But is there like a downside to all this balance?
Well, yeah. I mean, too much routine, even if it starts out super grounding, can lead to some serious boredom.
Oh, I see.
Especially if one or both partners actually crave, a little spontaneity.
That spark.
Exactly.
It's like they need enough excitement to keep things interesting.
Yeah, that's the Libra tightrope walk. Finding that sweet spot between harmony and keeping things exciting.
And I bet that plays out in all kinds of ways.
Oh, absolutely.
Speaking of balance, we can't talk Libra without mentioning Venus, right?
No ruling planet, Venus, all
Right.
about love, beauty, those finer things in life.
So two Venus-ruled people together.
Sounds dreamy, doesn't it?
It really does. Like astrologically made for each other.
Now, hold on, because there's a BUT.
There's always a but.
We can't forget that Libra is also exalted by Saturn.
Saturn. Isn't that like the planet of structure and what, discipline?
Exactly. Rules, boundaries, the whole shebang.
So it's like this romantic Venus energy meets like Saturn with a clipboard.
Right. So there's this constant dance between wanting that connection, that Venus stuff, but also needing structure.
Wow, that's fascinating, especially in a Libra-Libra relationship.
It can be a recipe for, well,
Disaster.
not necessarily, but maybe some trust issues.
Speaking of, the analysis kept mentioning those.
Yeah, apparently Libras might not even realize how much trust is an issue for them until they're with another Libra.
That's so interesting.
Right. So why is that?
Yeah, why? I mean, don't they have like a ton in common?
On the surface, yeah, but think about classic Libra indecision.
Oh, you mean like not being able to pick a restaurant?
Exactly. But it goes deeper than that.
Really?
It can affect how they see their partner's actions, too.
Oh, so it's not that they're like naturally suspicious.
No, not inherently.
It's more that they overthink everything.
The analysis uses this phrase, the fall of the sun.
Okay, now I'm lost.
Basically, it means Libras might have trouble seeing things clearly in relationships.
Because of their own insecurities.
More about perception than, actual flaws.
On it. So it's all about how they're interpreting things, not necessarily reality.
And that can really mess with communication, which is interesting.
Because Libras are supposed to be such amazing communicators, right?
Right, which is what makes this whole dynamic even more interesting.
Okay, so how does that work then? Good communicators, but potential trust issues.
It's almost like they can communicate too much sometimes.
Could have a good thing.
Maybe, especially with that Saturn influence we were talking about earlier.
Right, Saturn. I almost forgot. Okay, so walk me through it. How does Saturn mess with their communication?
So imagine this. One Libra says something that even unintentionally hurts the other one's feelings.
Okay, I can see that happening.
Now, instead of just addressing it head on, they both retreat into their own heads,
Oh no.
overanalyzing every word, every possible intention.
So instead of talking, it becomes this whole thing in their minds.
Exactly. And remember, they're good with words, so they might even try to intellectualize their emotions.
How I did it.
Picking apart the logic instead of dealing with the actual feelings.
That sounds exhausting.
It can be. The analysis even calls it draining each other with negativity.
Oof. Yeah, I can see how that would be a problem.
Big time.
So is open and honest communication just impossible for them then?
Not necessarily. It's about finding that balance, remember. When they're in a good place, that love of communication can be amazing for them.
So how can they use it to their advantage then, instead of it being like this weaponized thing.
Recognizing their triggers both individually and as a couple.
Okay, what does that mean, like in practical terms?
Maybe one person needs space to process before a big conversation.
Oh, yeah.
Or they could even have a code word when they're, spiraling.
A code word. I love that idea. It's like a shortcut to understanding each other better.
Exactly.
This is so interesting.
And don't forget, despite all this, they really can have some amazing shared values, which is huge for a couple.
Yeah, I was just thinking, let's not make it seem like all Libra relationships are doomed.
Not at all. They have so much potential, especially when you think back to Venus and Saturn's influence.
Right. Okay, remind me how that plays into their values.
Well, those planetary energies shape what they believe in.
Right.
So Libras, they tend to be drawn to, like, fairness, justice, balance, all that good stuff.
That makes sense. They are the scales, after all.
Exactly. So even if they drive each other crazy sometimes...
Which, let's face it, we all do in relationships, right?
But of course it's unavoidable.
At their core, these Libras have got a similar outlook on life.
They might bicker about what movie to watch.
Oh, yeah, I know that one.
But when it comes to commitment, like creating a harmonious environment,
The big stuff.
they're usually on the same page about that.
That's a really good foundation to have, though, right?
Absolutely. It's essential.
But what happens when those shared values, kind of clash with what they each want as individuals?
That's where it gets interesting.
Because it's going to happen at some point, right?
Yeah.
Two different people, all that.
The analysis actually calls it shared values, diverging paths.
Ooh, I like that.
And it can definitely be a make or break point for them.
Okay, I need an example, though. What would that look like in real life?
Let's say both partners are super into education, personal growth, all that.
Sounds like a good start, right?
You'd think so, but what if one Libra wants to go back to school?
Big life change.
Right, and the other one would rather, I don't know, travel the world, have those new experiences.
Oh, I totally see this. They both value growth,
Okay.
but they want to go about it in totally opposite ways.
Boom, there you have it. Shared value, different paths.
Exactly. And that's where, compromise and understanding becomes so important.
Right, because they've got to find a way to make it work, even though they're on, like, totally different pages.
And it goes back to what we were saying about communication. Because even if their paths are different, they can still talk about it.
It's about really listening to each other, even when it's hard.
Which, let's be real, is tough in any relationship.
Oh, tell me about it.
But especially for Libras, who are always trying to find that balance, right?
Exactly. That's why they're symbolized by the scales.
It's not just about each person finding their own balance, but finding it together, too.
Which is way easier said than done, by the way.
No kidding.
But it can be done.
So it's less about, like, never disagreeing and more about how you handle those disagreements.
100%. Okay, so back to shared values for a sec.
Because we get a little sidetracked there.
Just a bit.
But it's all connected, right?
Totally. So even when Libras in this kind of pairing have different paths,
Which, like we said, is bound to happen.
those shared values can actually help them through those tough moments.
It's like, even if they don't agree on the how, they at least agree on the why.
Exactly. And that can make a world of difference.
It makes you wonder if maybe that's the secret to any relationship, not just Libra.
Right. Like being able to honor both the togetherness and the individuality.
Because you don't want to lose yourself in the process of being with someone else.
And that brings us back to that whole Venus-Saturn dynamic.
Ugh, those two planets again. I'm starting to see them as, like, the relationship puppet masters.
Kind of. But seriously, it's about that push and pull between connection and independence, even within yourself.
Okay, that makes sense. So maybe it's not about achieving perfect harmony, which, let's be honest, is impossible.
Totally unrealistic.
It's more about embracing the messiness of it all.
Exactly. Those disagreements, those moments of imbalance, they can actually help you grow closer.
If you don't, like,
Yeah.
kill each other first.
Yeah, there's that.
Yeah.
But it's about remembering that relationships are always changing, just like we are.
Okay, this has been seriously eye-opening.
I'll let it hear it.
But before we wrap up, any final words of wisdom for our listeners? Whether they're with a Libra or just trying to navigate any relationship, really.
Remember, astrology is just one lens to look at things through.
It's not the be-all and end-all.
Exactly. The most important thing is to approach your relationships with an open mind and a willingness to, actually communicate.
And maybe a code word or two for when things get tough.
Always a good idea.
I love that. Well, on that note, we'll leave you with this final thought.
Hit us with it.
What if the real key to a good relationship isn't about achieving perfect balance, but about embracing the journey, with all its ups and downs?
Now that's something to think about. Boom. There you have it. Shared value, different paths.
And this is where I'm sure some couples are like, yep, been there, done that, got the emotional baggage to prove it.
Right. It's not easy. But this is where compromise and really understanding where the other person is coming from is so important for Libras, especially in this kind of pairing.
Because it's like, how do you even begin to compromise when you both want such different things, even if those things are rooted in the same value system? It seems almost impossible.
It's tough, for sure, but it goes back to communication, like really listening to each other, not just waiting for your turn to talk.
Which, let's be real, is something we all struggle with sometimes.
Oh, 100%. It's a lifelong skill.
It really is. But it seems like, for Libras especially, that whole balance thing comes into play again, right? Like, it's not just about each person finding their own balance, but finding it together as a couple.
Exactly. And that can mean having those tough conversations, setting boundaries, maybe even agreeing to disagree sometimes.
Which is healthy. It's okay to not see eye to eye on absolutely everything, right?
Totally. In fact, those disagreements can actually make the relationship stronger as long as you're both respectful.
It's all about how you handle those disagreements, not about avoiding them altogether.
100%.
This has been such a fascinating deep dive. We've covered so much ground.
It's amazing how much there is to unpack with just one astrological pairing.
Right. But before we wrap things up, I have to ask, what's your biggest takeaway from all of this? What should our listeners, whether they're in a Libra-Libra relationship or not, really take to heart?
I think it boils down to this. Relationships are about more than just finding someone who checks all the boxes or has the same values as you. It's about finding someone who challenges you to grow, who pushes you outside of your comfort zone, and who you can learn from, even when it's tough.
I love that. It's about embracing the journey with all its twists and turns.
Exactly. Because those imperfections, those moments of imbalance, are often where the real magic happens.
So well said. And on that note, we'll leave our listeners with this final thought. What if the secret to a fulfilling relationship, whether it's with a Libra or any other sign, isn't about achieving perfect balance, but about embracing the beautiful chaos of two individuals choosing to grow and evolve together? Thanks for joining us on this deep dive, everyone. Until next time.